people, I'm sure you did, and also reflected on your own careers and prospects. So this is a pleasure to have a chat with Rajia. So Rajia is a GP originally, and then in 2000, she started up a recruitment company with her husband at the time, has made her millions, and we've got model Ferraris at the back, but believe me, there are actually 2 real Ferraris downstairs in the garage, and she's starting up her next health tech company that she knows more about. She's also a responsible officer and planning to return to clinical practice. She's got a really interesting career, and obviously she is the really kind host of this amazing soiree today. So thank you very much, Rajia. I really appreciate it. So round of applause. So Rajia, why did you actually go into clinic? Why did you become a GP in the first place?
So let me sort of start right at the beginning. So I went to St George's just down the road, qualified in 1997, and I always knew I wanted to sort of be a GP. It went back to work-life balance, but I think everybody lied to me when they sort of said work-life balance. So general practice was not quite what I expected. So my GP trainer used to sort of come in at 8 and kind of leave at 8, and I thought, shit, sorry, this is not the life I wanted. So after I sort of finished my GP registrar year, I started to become a locum. Okay, so work-life balance was very important to me. So I used to work long weekends, 32 hours, so 16-hour days on Saturdays and Sunday. And I used to do 1 extra day midweek. So that was my 1 year of just doing home visits through a company. And it was brilliant. I loved it. So then I joined another locum agency, and it was then just a recruitment consultant. So started talking as you sort of do, and somehow I ended up dating this recruitment consultant. Yeah, before I know, can't really make these things up. Before you knew it, I was setting up a company with this recruitment consultant, and it was completely accidental. He got headhunted by a pediatric consultant and his wife, who was a practice manager. He was a very, very good recruitment consultant, obviously, to have convinced me to sort of date him in the first place. So he was a very, very people's person. So ended up sort of setting up DR Locums in 2002. I call it the Unplanned Pregnancy because I didn't actually see my career as an entrepreneur. I was just a happy-go-lucky work-life balance kid. Then DR Locums came, and for some reason the original partnership didn't work out, and it was just me and Salim. So I was literally left holding a baby, a business that I never planned to have. Got married to Salim, and the next 5 years was just work non-stop. I was the face of a business, so I used to do anything between 10 and 15 sessions a day. So you can imagine this hippie kid who used to just do long weekends to all of a sudden just working non-stop. But it's brilliant because it allowed me to sort of develop business, and it was the most easiest thing I sort of ever did. So I used to just say, hi, I'm Raj, I own Dr. Locums, and everybody was, wow, entrepreneur. You know, now I look here and everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Back in 2002, I was a very, very rare breed, and it's like, wow, you must be quite good at what you do. So it's brilliant. So I made a lot of friends who were GPs, and they worked for me. So that networking effect. So my marketing budget was probably about 10,000 a year, which is absolutely nothing. But in our first year, we turned over £1 million. So we set up DR Locums with £12,500, which, you know, in this day and age, you can't do anything with. So it was an amazing time to set up a business. Now, one thing I learned was money comes, money goes. Unless you do something with that money, it's very easy to sort of see money and sort of think you've made it. You never do. So I'm quite a sensible person. So back in 2000, when I was a GP registrar, there was some amazing scheme where they paid for my solicitor fees, my deposit and everything. I don't know if they still do that relocation thing. I relocated from St. Helier Hospital, which was like 2 miles down the road, to where I bought my place, but they paid for everything, so I thought, hey, I can do some of that. So I bought my first place in 2000, and it was the best thing I ever did. So I sold it 2 years down the road, made, I think it was 60-something thousand pounds, and I thought, wow, tax-free. Okay, so I think that's when I realised property is where I need to be. So when DR Locum started making some silly money, we were buying properties every 3 to 6 months, left, right and centre. It was brilliant. It was like, whoa. They were throwing mortgages. So the first property I bought, I think I had to pay £5,000 deposit. I mean, can you imagine? It's like unheard of in this day and age. And the same goes for everything we sort of did. So all the buy-to-lets we bought, I don't think we put more than 20, 30,000, and some of these properties made us about $500,000 in the 10 years each. So we were just very, very lucky. And I genuinely believe a lot of what happened to me in my early life was pure luck. I, dated somebody, ended up setting up a business. I bought a property that was nearly sort of paid for, my deposit and everything was paid for. And then the banks were just throwing money at us to go and buy to let. So if anybody sort of tried to do that in this day and age, we'd struggle. So luck had massive part to sort of play with why I live here. So this was quite an interesting purchase. So back in the days when I was at med school, so I was at med school at St. George's, which is literally down the road. So I used to go to Chelsea Harbour, which is just across the road down here. And I used to sit there looking at how the rich lived, as everybody does. And when the time came, I actually sort of said to Salim, I am going to buy this place in 2005. So my first property was 2000, and 2005 I bought this for near $1 million then. So it was like big, bold decision, but it's the best decision I ever made. And it was purely because I wasn't scared to make that decision. A lot of people get caught up in that, I will one day. And I just sort of said, Salim, we're doing this. And I remember him looking at me sort of thinking, Raj, where are we going to raise the deposit from? But we never looked back. The day we walked in, moved in, the property had made $500,000 in, from seeing it off plan to moving in. Where else do you make that sort of money? You don't. So property investment was where I made my money. Every now and again, I sort of post my Ferraris on LinkedIn. I get a hurl of abuse. And you sort of think, okay, it's like, you own a locum agency, how dare you show off your Ferraris? And I sort of say, look, dude, I didn't actually make my money, okay, indirectly I did, but I buy my Ferraris from my property investment, so what's your problem? It's like a sin. One of the biggest problems with the public sector is you can't be seen to be making money or enjoying yourself. I've never seen such a disillusioned workforce because, it's a sin to be happy. It's a sin to enjoy life. It's a sin to turn up in your 2x2. It's a problem. And unless that sort of changes, people will be sort of leaving medicine in the hundreds, thousands. Arbonne are here with a happy pill. Everybody's going to be joining them soon. And that's the problem because people see, social media has made things a lot easier for people like yourself to sort of see, hey, that's a doctor and they're having an amazing life. A number of doctors that write to me to sort of say, how can I have your life? But, what they don't realize is, yes, I started off completely by fluke. But after that, the next 5 years of Dr. Locums, you know what? Taking 1 week off a year is hard work, but people don't see that. But then you have to make your money make money. You have to make money in your sleep. All my properties do exactly that. So let's sort of say, I wanted to sort of take some time out and fly. If I rented this place out, I'd make 60,000. Okay, that would pay for a decent lifestyle, right? So it goes back to, as young people sort of starting off in life, you have to sort of think of what would happen if tomorrow you weren't working. You have to have a contingency plan, and a lot of people go through life by sort of saying, "I'll live for today, and we'll think about tomorrow." But you can't. You're quite young. Eventually, time will catch up, and you no longer will be able to sort of earn the sort of money. So, once you start making money, save, put it into something so that it makes money. Invest in yourself. Invest in your dreams. So the question is, so I saw my last patient in 2012. Why am I going back into medicine? I actually miss medicine, believe it or not. You know what? If you have a bad day, the best job to sort of go into, not necessarily your colleagues or the people in the hierarchy, your patients, they God worship you sometimes, and sometimes you just need that. I've got a very big social media page. People write to me all the time telling me how I've changed their lives just because I exude quite a bit of positivity. But you know what, it's not the same as medicine. So I always advocate you should never leave medicine. It's a privilege to be in a profession, and I can only sort of say that now because I walked away from it for a few years. But trying to get back into medicine is quite tough. So I own a recruitment company. I probably cover most of the surgeries in London. I made the stupid mistake. I don't know if it was stupid not to do one session a year to remain on a performers list. I didn't do it out of principle. I could have just asked one of my friends to sort of say, give me a 2-hour session, put 5 patients in with coughs and colds. I could have sort of sabotaged it. But I'm not the sort of type who would sabotage my own career just to sort of tick a box. So I walked away from medicine to sort of find out whether I still wanted to be a medic, which I think is very important. A lot of you guys are here because you're a bit disillusioned. You want to sort of know if a grass is green on the other side. Yes, it is. But I can promise you this, no matter how much money you make, no matter how successful you are, you will miss medicine because you are in an amazing job where you can change lives. I don't think you can sort of say that in many others, I mean, medic footprints maybe, changes lives, but realistically speaking, you want to be somewhere where you're actually genuinely making a difference, and medicine does that. So when I sort of looked at going back into medicine, there's whole loads of barriers. So I sort of kept my hand in medicine by being a responsible officer. So I work with NHS England and the GMC. It's a brilliant way of networking, keeping myself in the loop. And I get appraised every year by really serious people who don't always have a sense of humour and they don't always understand my career path. But fortunately, my recent sort of appraisal was really cool, and she really appreciated what I did. And I thought, whoa, she must be working for Arbonne. But you don't often get that. Absolutely. So it's quite nice. I think the NHS is realising that, you know what, you need to take a chill pill, literally, and start appreciating your workforce because everybody's leaving for Qatar and God knows where else. So, coming back to Doctor Plus, which is my next venture. So, one of the things I wanted to do was set up a £50 million company by the age of 50. And I wanted to practice medicine, and I wanted to practice medicine on my own terms. So, I looked at some of the most successful companies in the world. Anybody care to name me a few?
Virgin? Apple. Samsung. Facebook. Google.
Who said Uber? Okay. Any others?
Airbnb. Netflix. Amazon. Facebook.
Amazon's good. Uber's good.
Microsoft.
Okay. So there are some good names. Now, marketplace is where it's all happening. If you look at what VC's back, if you're a marketplace, that's half the sell done. I looked at Airbnb, so I have quite a few properties, so I actually use Airbnb, and I thought, wow, no estate agents, you know what, that is so cool. But it's hard work, but I love the model. So I thought, how can I bring a bit of Airbnb and a bit of Uber into something that I'm good at? So I am good at recruitment. I like being a doctor. How do I bring something that's not quite in the market? So I've created a marketplace for doctors and patients. Okay. Now, one of the things I've sort of learned through owning a locum agency, doctors hate being told you're worth £70 an hour. They just look at me and sort of say, hell, why can't you give me £90 an hour? Now, the GP surgery doesn't want to give me that sort of money, so how am I going to pay you that much? So I thought, you know what, having sort of ran Dr. Locum since 2002, I'm going to change this. I am actually going to give the Airbnb model a bit of a lifeline in the doctor's market. So what does my marketplace do? I've sort of said, right, guys, I'm going to let you decide. So I'm going to make sure you guys don't take the piss. So there's going to be ceiling so that patients don't get ripped off. And I'm going to put a floor so that you guys don't sort of bankrupt me in trying to sort of make your money. So if you sort of give 2 numbers and you sort of say anything in between is up to you. So if you look at why does Airbnb work, you look at what your competitors are charging, and you have to constantly use your business acumen to sort of try and outsmart the next property, right? So it auto-regulates itself. So a lot of people will sort of say, oh my God, you're letting doctors choose how much they want to charge your patients. I sort of say, absolutely, why not? But if doctors are charging too much, they'll realize we're not going to have a single patient knocking on the door. So they'll eventually wake up and sort of say, okay, maybe that's a bit too much. So doctors won't sort of go at pitch bottom, because the patient will look at him and sort of say, what's wrong with that doctor? Why is he so cheap? He must be crap. So there's all these sort of different things that you sort of tap into, and it's brilliant. I loved Airbnb because it allowed me to be a micro business. And I want to actually create that environment in the healthcare sector. So we're going to start off with GPs, then we're going to sort of do all the hospital consultants. And what I'm planning to sort of do is then have dietitians, nutritionists, fitness, so, you know, personal trainers, all these people. If I bring recruitment, so my experience is recruitment, which is pre-employment sort of checks. I've done the software, so it automatically does everything for me. I can roll that out to any industry. Hiya.
Hi. Can I just ask, you might be coming to it, so my apologies if...
No, it's okay.
There's already Babylon out there, there's Northern Docs, there's lots of...
There's so many.
In London, and there's different modules. So what's going to make you stand out? Why are you going to be the next Facebook or...
Okay.
Uber?
So one of the biggest problems with all the companies that you sort of mentioned, you will be working for them, okay? You will have a salary and you'll never dictate how much you'll be earning. So I wanted to sort of change that model. You work for yourself. I just take a cut, yeah, a little commission. Okay, maybe it's not little, 20%. But it depends. So I looked at one of the things that I hear from patients time and time again. They're always looking for continuity of care. So if I had to sort of say, what's my USP? I actually allow doctors to have a license and for patients to subscribe to them. Okay? Say, for instance, a typical high-end license. So I've got 3 models, pay-as-you-go. So you take 80%, my company will take 20%. So that's one model. There's a hybrid, so you pay $999 a year. And then the first patient subscription, the first month comes to my company, and then off you go. So I thought, you know, £5,000 was quite a bit for a license. But what that does offer you is billing system, a platform for scheduling, and electronic healthcare records. So I put everything into one system. That doesn't exist. Okay? And then, so there's another model, 5,000. So for that 5,000, you can have patients subscribe to you. So imagine you had 1,000 patients register with you, and they're paying, let's say, £500 a year because you're such an amazing doctor, and they want to have you as their doctor. How much is 1,000 patients? Will you ever make that sort of money? $500,000 a year? Can you see why my app is all of a sudden quite exciting? Because nobody's quite done the subscription model. Nobody's been brave enough to sort of say, I'm going to go back to when the NHS was great. I loved the NHS when I qualified, when I became a GP in 2001. You know, patients had named doctors. We've gone away from that. We're a production line at this very moment. And patients, if I heard the number of patients who sort of said, I want to see the same doctor, I want continuity of care, I want the doctor to know me, and I want the doctor to know everything about me, and for me not to repeat everything because I said it to the last doctor before. You change that mentality, and patients actually want that. So one of the other things I've sort of done, I've actually given patients their own electronic healthcare records. So currently, when you sort of go and see different doctors, every doctor has their own set of electronic healthcare records. It's not connected. So I thought, you know what, we need to sort of change that. We need to empower patients. So what have I done? It's one of the biggest headaches I've had developing this app is privacy, data security, etc. Because giving patients their own records, it's hard work. What happens if a patient's nuts? You know, how do I protect my colleagues? So I've had to build in so many different layers of protection so that the patients can own the records, and the doctors can have some control, especially if a patient is, let's say, a danger to themselves. How do you write, you know, patient is psychotic, might kill you, without the patient knowing? So there's so many sort of things that you have to think about when you sort of give patients complete control of their own electronic healthcare records. So it's been brilliant. I've loved every bit of developing this app because I've actually finally had to use my brains. You know, it's very hard to sort of do something that will sort of change healthcare innovation, and I think I've sort of cracked it.
So Rajia, we haven't got much time left,
No, it's fine.
unfortunately, but I wanted to ask more about the challenges. I mean, this is your first health tech company. What are the major challenges that we've discussed earlier about, going into it, starting off relatively blind when it comes to choosing the right developers and coders, and the cost associated with building such an ambitious product?
Absolutely. So I don't know if could I have a show of hands? How many people have developed an app or some form of technology? Cool. And anybody had a positive experience? Wow.
Positive experience.
You're happy with your developer and you haven't fired them or killed them yet?
No, you're going to get that, aren't you? But positive experience, absolutely.
Absolutely. So you're probably at the end of that experience because, you're working for Arbonne. So my experience. The first company I went to gave me a ridiculous price. I had a budget in mind. I blew that 3 folds over. So it's been an experience. Now, if I didn't have deep pocket and if I didn't have a Ferrari to release the cash, I would have been in shit. So one thing I would sort of say, whenever a company gives you quote, always get free quotes. So I did get free quotes, and my product will actually be at the first phase will be at the price that was quoted by the highest, which was 3 times the price I went with. So I had a bit of a figure in my head, and I knew my maximum was going to be 250,000 to get my MVP, just for phase 1. This is just the first part. Yes?
Well, do you want your app to be one of them that stands out?
Absolutely. Sorry, this is my daughter Anaya. So
Wow.
she's 8-year-old, and she's going to be an entrepreneur because she doesn't want to become a doctor. So she suffered with me. The last year has been incredibly hard. One of the things I had to sort of learn was when I fired my first developers, I had to learn how to wireframe. If anybody ever sort of develops an app, please learn how to wireframe. You will save yourself so much time and headache.
How do you learn how to do that then?
There's so many softwares out there. I use Adobe XD, and it's brilliant. So there's no room for error. You sort of do exactly what your app wants to do, and you give it to the developers, the coders, and sort of say, do this. It's brilliant. It will save you a lot of money.
And what is a wireframe for people that don't know what a wireframe is?
This is just the layout of, absolutely, the layout of how, absolutely, and if you press this button, what happens? You have to think of so many things. Do you know, my app is going to have at least 1,000 pages. Now, that's a lot of pages. I've designed about 3/4 of that. So imagine if I had to pay an outside company to sort of do that. But it's been brilliant because I can roll the wireframes out in any other market I like and utilize that. So it's a great investment in myself. So where do I sort of see myself? Having done that, having spent a hell of a lot of money, it's brilliant because I can actually sort of say, right, I think my app is worth 25 million. So how many people can sort of create a 25 million pound company in 1 year? Any offers? Why do I say 25 million? Because I can. I've had 500,000 thrown at me by investors to be part of this, and I said no.
So, Rajia, I've got one final question. One thing you might have noticed from this event is that we've been very open in talking about money, which is quite alien to doctors, especially from working in the public sector. So is money your prime motivator in what you're doing? I mean, obviously you've touched upon what's actually really important, which is patients and healthcare. So, yeah, what is your main motivator now? What advice would you give to doctors who are thinking about starting up their own health tech company?
So I'm at the stage in my life where I actually want to create something that's going to live long after me. I'm obsessed with creating a legacy. So I want my daughter to sort of one day sort of say, Mum created the Airbnb of the doctor's world. I mean, it's great, and that's what I live for. I live for sort of seeing that, wow, I've met quite a few investors, and their jaw is like on the floor. It's like, wow, you've created this. And when I tell them how much I've spent to create it, like, wow, you've just recreated the whole of the NHS, with that sort of budget. And you can. And so I want to empower every doctor out there, the little voices that sort of say, I'm so frustrated. I actually want to sort of say, right, off you go. I've created the app. I've given you everything end to end. Go and market yourself on my platform and make however much you want. I haven't put any restrictions on how many patients you can have. but you will be voted by your patients. If you're crap, you'll be off. If you're good, you'll be on it. And I have given you a blank canvas because I can. We are not the NHS, but I've given you every opportunity that the NHS gives you. And I want you to go out there and sort of be a happy doctor. And if you can work with Arbonne as well at the same time, then I'm happy. Because that's exactly what it does. It gives you autonomy.
Thanks a lot, Rajia. So we're going to hear more from Rajia at the Alternative Careers and Wellbeing event in October. So a round of applause. Really appreciate that. Okay. You can take your chair with you, actually. So the final speaker is Joe, who's right at the back. So Joe is a doctor who very recently started with PwC in strategy consulting, and he'll be running our management consultancy workshop that we'll have on day one, so the Friday of the event. So management consultancy is really popular amongst medics, mainly as a tradition where medics tend to go. That's the first thing I think of, management consultancy as an alternative career. So Joe's going to tell us more about what he does and what is to be expected at the event.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So, hello everyone. I have the exciting job of telling you about strategy consulting, which is going to be fun, I can tell you that. So what am I briefly going to cover? I'm going to say how I got to where I am now, what sort of journey I took, what it's like being a management consultant, and what we'll cover at the conference in October. So it's going to be sort of crescendo from the least interesting up to the most interesting. So, back to me. So I trained, as many people would have done, as a medical doctor. I trained at Manchester, I did an integrated degree, and then I started to have second thoughts. So I guess my path started to diverge from the traditional, when in final year I used my elective not to go abroad, not to go to a sunny Caribbean country, but to go to McKinsey and do some healthcare consulting. So there I did two really interesting projects. I did a really operational project where we worked with a hospital that was underperforming to try and improve their processes, improve their clinical performance, improve their safety, and improve their finances. And that was really rewarding. And then we did a second project, entirely different, where we worked with two CCGs. And we sat down with them over a long period and said, okay, your model of healthcare delivery is not set up well for the healthcare needs of the population. If you were to redesign it, how would you do that and how would it look? And that was probably the most interesting thing I did, because you had a blank piece of paper and you said, how should we deliver healthcare? So that was interesting. Then I went on to do my foundation years. I found them okay. And then, yeah, if you've got a more positive response, let me know. But in my final year of foundation, I applied to some strategy consulting firms and got a job for when I finished. I now work in a specific bit of strategy consulting where we advise on M&A, so mergers and acquisitions, and advise mainly private equity or corporate clients on deals. So it's a bit consulting, strategy consulting, deals. It's a specialist area. So what's it like being a consultant? Well, some people think it's quite exotic. I'd agree. I've been to the inside of offices in Epsom, Birmingham, Bedford, and my personal favourite was 4 weeks in a hospital in South London where the office they provided for us had no windows. So that was the highlight. So I wouldn't say it's exotic, but there are areas where I think it offers you more than I felt I could get from medicine. And number one is the challenge it gives you and the ability to have autonomy in dealing with that challenge. And to try bring that to life a little bit, I'll use a few examples. So everyone's favourite subject, LED lighting, sounds very dull. But we were tasked with, from our client, saying how big is the LED lighting market for the whole of Europe? And that involves going, okay, who uses these lights? What do they use them for? How frequently do they change them? What do they cost now? What will they cost in 5 years? And there's no one there to tell you that, so you go and work that all out for yourself. And you are given a lot of rein to go and do it how you want. So there's interesting problems and lots of scope to take responsibility for your results. I guess another example of that is we were asked to say this, we've got two pharma companies that were merging. They both did a lot of opioids, and they're saying how do they bring the drugs that one specialises in to the other market? And it raised some interesting questions. I don't know if people have practiced in Europe much, but they tend to favour different delivery methods. They do a lot more PR than the UK, so we had this big problem where the German markets produced all their medicines, opioids, a lot of them as PR, and how do we bring that to the UK, or is that even feasible, is a problem. So, yeah, interesting problems and lots of brain to go do that yourself. So then finally, a little teaser about what we'll do at the conference. It's going to be really good, I'm sure of that. We're going to do 3 things. We're going to talk about what consulting is, what are the different parts of consulting, and what are the options to specialise in, and then which firms do that. 2, if you decide you want to do consulting, which firm should you choose and how do you decide that? And then 3, what's the application process? How do you get through it? How do you make sure that you're going to have the best chance of getting your top job? And we'll do that by doing some hands-on case studies, some hands-on practice, and running through how you optimise your CV. So that's it. I kept it brief, I hope, but I hope it was interesting. Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions for Joe? Ro.
Did you go in as a healthcare consultant?
Yeah.
Did you go in as
So different firms do different models. I joined our healthcare team, but given the LED lighting example, you don't only work in your home sector. I joined on a graduate path with the opportunity to progress quickly, which has been realised, which is nice of them that they stuck to their word. Some firms will allow you to join slightly one rung up, and then also to progress quickly. It's difficult to join at a very senior level because a lot of the skills that you develop are specific to the consulting role. It is possible to do, but you'd have to find a consulting business that will allow you to focus on where your expertise is. So if you come in to only do public healthcare consulting, you may be able to come in at a higher grade. If we bring someone in to only do oil and gas transactions, they can come in at a higher grade, same way. But for me, I had to join relatively at the bottom and then try to progress.
So was it strategy and, or was it PwC strategy?
So I was recruited by Strategy and. It's a bit of a merger, and historically the deals advisory section has been PwC, and Strategy and, who used to be Booz, were corporate strategy. It's now semi-mixed and is in a bit of flux, but if I push to, I'll do projects for Strategy and. If I push to, I'll only do deals work, and again, it's more flexible.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Really appreciate that, and we'll see you in October as well. Arun, do you want to say anything?
I'll say a quick few.
Yeah.
Thanks, Abena. So, like Joe, I also went into consulting. I'm an orthopod by background. Took some time out, went to do an MBA and worked for EY, so one of the other big 4 consulting firms. So similar story. I then came back to the NHS actually because there's something about the medical career you miss, and for me it's about identifying what brings value to you. Is it the satisfaction of a completed project? Is it about that little thank you from patients? Or what is it that drives you? You've got to really dig down deep. The question about is the grass greener? It is for a short time, but then you've got to, again, think about your motivators. Would I recommend a career consulting? Absolutely. I think it's something that everyone should consider. And certainly it gave me a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. I went back to co-found Eureka Doc, which is one of our co-founder organizations. We work with Medic Footprints a lot. We do an online course for getting into consulting. We do an online MBA, and we do a lot of other courses, so check us out. But above all, find out what you love and just do whatever you want. So, cool. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we advertise a lot of Eureka Docs online courses, and at the moment we've got a summer course where something's happening every week, so check out their website, our website, for more information. And also to let you know that we do recruit into some management consultancy firms, so if you're interested, please send me a line. And finally, I also wanted to introduce Yasmin, who's literally at the back, who wants to come forward, not right now. So yeah, come. So Yasmin is a breath of fresh air to Medic Footprints. She is a breast surgeon and also doing an MD with the Royal College of Surgeons at the moment, and she is our Alternative Careers and Wellbeing event lead. So why don't you give us a few words as to what we've got planned this year?
You did not tell me I was going to talk. Hi everyone. So just a show of hands, how many people have been to the Alternative Careers Conference? Okay, so lots of potential new people coming this year, I'm hoping. So this year the theme is health tech, and we are running a very similar event as we did in the last few years, a couple of sessions and quite a few speakers, but essentially with a running theme of health tech throughout. So in terms of the things that we have secured, obviously, as mentioned, we've got a management consultancy session, we've got the coding for doctors, we've got some very interesting people coming to talk about well-being, we've got Sanctus potentially involved, if anyone's heard of them, Stella Viggs coming to do a talk, and we've got some very exciting exhibitors coming as well. So for all of you that haven't bought your early bird tickets, they're still available at the moment until the end of July, and hopefully I'll see you all there.
Like literally, it's one of the most diverse events you'll ever go to. You will meet some really interesting, like the people in the room, representative, but like times, I don't know how many people in this room. I can't do my maths either. But we have 350 people that come every year. And this year we really wanted to design it as an immersive event where you do a lot of networking, because that's the way that people usually get ahead. And doctors aren't really used to that whole form of like getting ahead in your career, and really enabling doctors to really reconfigure their mindset into, yes, you can do what you want to do, but as long as you meet the right people, have the right ambition and the right intentions, you can do it. And whether that's clinical medicine, which is absolutely fine, that's great, but you need to make that decision for yourselves in the right state of mind. So as I said, as Yasmin said, we do have some early bird tickets left, so if you're interested, we will be emailing them to you in the next 24 to 48 hours. And finally, would you mind just passing the flowers right next to you? I want to say again, if this would not be possible without Rajia for offering up this flat, so really wanted to say thank you so much. Yeah, our daughter. Right, so thanks again, and thank you again for all of you. So Lewis, Yasmin, all the speakers, every single person in this room, thank you so much for coming today. Really appreciate it, and we hope to see you in October, because this is an event we literally work on from the day after the last event. A lot of blood and sweat goes into it, and it really is an amazing 2 days, and there are people here that can testify for that, like Jonathan. So, yeah, and Clive was there last year. So, yeah, people do come back. So, thanks again, and enjoy. Thanks.